All right, this meeting is officially being live streamed. I think everyone can see the notification on their screen.
Thank you. Thank you. Again, welcome everybody to our 2022 meeting on priorities. Very important meeting. Thank you guys for taking the time out to be here. You know, I want to start with just telling you a little bit. Of course, let me step back. My name is Craig Wong. I am a program administrator with the Department of Social Services. I am also one of our co-chairs for Westchester County Continuum of Care Partnership to End Homelessness. What do we do? What is that all about? You know, our mission at Westchester County CoC is basically, simply put, to end homelessness in Westchester County. And I think we've in the last year, we've took a pretty good chunk out of homelessness. I'm so happy to say, with all the initiatives, with all the funding that has come down, with your help, our stakeholders' help, our shelters, our housing providers, our CoC admin team, we've done a great job. You know, I'm so pleased. With that end, we're not finished yet. We still have some work to do. And that leads us to why we're here today, meeting on priorities. What is that? Well, basically, it's an open forum as expressed here. It's an opportunity to help determine what we will include in and what improvements can be made to our core systems. We're not deluding ourselves to say we know everything. We have all the pieces, we have all the answers. By no means. We need input. We need suggestions. We want to hear what folks feel are important, what folks feel are still needs that are not being met. And this is an opportunity for you guys, anybody, to share, you know, your thoughts, your views, your priorities, what you think is important. So with that said, we want suggestions to improve current services, strategies to improve and end homelessness, current unmet needs, as I mentioned. This is the time for that. We do have some folks that have pre-registered and will be speaking, but that doesn't mean if those of you on the line have something to say, something to add, that you can't. At the end, we will open the floor for those that have something they would like to share to do so. We do ask that you keep comments to 3 minutes. 3 minutes to give everybody an opportunity to speak. This is not the meeting where we're going to necessarily address the comments and the suggestions made. We will do that in the future. But trust me, we're taking notes. It's very important information. And then we will address them throughout the year as we go on. And we'll get back to you on the progress that we're making. So thank you for that. Thank you for your patience. Did I miss anything, Allison, Jenny, or Latanya, before we get started?
You told them that we're going to go through the agenda that they see on the screen, and then we'll be asking for people from the floor to speak if they so choose.
Yes.
Awesome.
All right. All right. So first up is Brittany with us? Just a reminder to please mute your line if you're not speaking.
I'm here.
Okay, Brittany, you're up. You're on deck.
Okay.
You're up at
Perfect.
first.
Is it okay if I go ahead and share my screen?
You sure can.
Okay, thank you. Okay, bear with me. Can you guys see? See, okay. All right, so my name is Brittany Hodgins. I am the Director of Residential Services at Hope Store. And for those of you that don't know, Hope Store is a domestic violence agency in Westchester County. We have a 24/7 hotline and a 24/7 emergency confidential shelter. We also have a lot of other services at our main office location, which is located in Hawthorne. Okay, so I wanted to start off by talking about just some statistics. I think it's really important to share some of these Statistics for everyone, just so you guys are aware. So 1 in every 4 women and 1 in every 7 men have been a victim of severe physical violence by an intimate partner in their lifetime. On average, 20 people per minute are physically abused by an intimate partner in the United States. And this equates to 10 million people in 1 year. On a typical day, there are more than 20,000 phone calls placed to domestic violence hotlines nationwide. And 1 in 15 children are exposed to intimate partner violence each year. 90% of these children are eyewitnesses to this violence. Between 21 and 60% of victims of intimate partner violence lose their jobs due to reasons stemming from abuse. I think that statistic is really important. Of course, all of them are, but a lot of questions that I'll receive, working when I tell people what I do, they'll ask, why don't people leave? Why can't people just get a job? And it is definitely not that easy. There are so many factors. A lot of people, they have been through, this abuse for X amount of years and they're unable to work because of their abuser. Some of them don't even have bank accounts, etc. So there's a lot that goes into it. So I just really wanted to add these stats here. So here's some local provider stats. In the most recent data collected on the need for housing for survivors in Westchester in a single year, my sister's place received 1,428 requests for shelter, and Hope Store received 701 requests for shelter. Westchester's DV hotlines received 1,383 requests for shelter. And for those of you that don't know, My Sister's Place is another DV agency in Westchester County that also has a 24/7 emergency shelter, emergency hotline, and lots of resources at their main office location as well. So these numbers, I know they're from 2018, but I did just want to add that this has only increased since then. I know personally for our agency, I was just looking this past week, and we already have well over 400 calls just within the last, I would say like 5 or 6 months. And that's just for seeking shelter. That's not for seeking other services like counseling, etc. So this is the ratio of the number of households to housing unit. So for every household we house, there are 121 households we cannot serve. In 2019, the Westchester County Continuum of Care Gaps Analysis estimated that for the 79 households made homeless by DV in our shelters, there were 26 dedicated program openings. So that means there's 53 households that were not able to be housed in the DV shelters. A housing unit to ratio of 3.04. The number of phone calls received in 1 year where the caller indicated they would be homeless if they left their residence was 3,132 people. The household to unit ratio jumps to 120.5. So how do we respond to these 3,132 plus calls for help? So in 2019, the RISE Rapid Rehousing Program at CHOP was implemented. There are currently 27 families in RISE, and 20 of those families are currently in housing. And that's just for this year. In 2021, New York State created the Emergency Housing Voucher Program. There are 61 households that are currently either housed or in the final housing search, and 24 households are currently waitlisted. In 2021, First Steps to Heal, Inc. was implemented, and they have assisted 30 families to date and continue to expand. In 2023, we're looking forward to Highgate Tower opening in New Rochelle, and they'll be able to accept 77 households made homeless by DV to their apartment-based voucher program. And just so you all know, there are currently 38 shelter beds between My Sister's Place and Hope Store. We also have DV priority for New Start Rapid Rehousing Program at West Tab. However, the numbers for referral criteria wasn't able to be formally tracked for DV. Okay, so what can we do next? We've made really great strides in this last year. I've worked in this field for over 10 years now, and we have really made amazing accomplishments in this last year. But that doesn't mean that we need to stop here. We have to continue to advocate for DV survivors to gain more access and more funding to housing resources. Thank you so much. I really appreciate being able to talk with you all. And you can reach out to me if you have any questions. I'll put my information in the chat.
Thank you, Brittany. Really appreciate your presentation. You know, you've told us what we need to continue to do. You've highlighted what we've done and what we can look forward to. So thank you so much. We certainly need to keep domestic violence services on our radar, and we will.
Thank you.
Great. All right. Angela, is Angela with us? Angela Bailey?
Hi. So Angela's running a little late. She'll be
Okay.
for like 15, 20 minutes.
No problem. So we'll circle back with Angela. Jenny, you're up.
Okay. Let me just go ahead and share my screen. Good morning, everyone. Okay. So today I'm going to present about prioritizing people experiencing unsheltered homelessness in the coming year. Let me take a step back and introduce myself. My name is Jenny Badgery. I am the Planning Associate at Program Design and Development. Most of you know me, I know most of you, and I appreciate the opportunity allowing me to come and present today. So, an unsheltered homeless person resides in a place not meant for human habitation, such as cars, parks, sidewalks, abandoned buildings on the street. Compared with people who are experiencing homelessness in sheltered locations, people enduring unsheltered homelessness are more likely to be disconnected from formal employment, have significant physical, mental, and behavioral health challenges, and have former and ongoing involvement with the criminal legal system. People enduring unsheltered homelessness are more likely to experience homelessness for longer periods, which is a reflection of the challenges that they face trying to access housing in the private rental market, as well as in accessing homeless assistance and other assistance programs. The bottom line here is that unsheltered homelessness devastates people's lives. I wanted to go ahead and share some statistics with you guys to show why we should make this a priority. So people enduring unsheltered homelessness are more likely than people living in sheltered locations to have various characteristics that reflect how system and program level policies and structural and systemic racism may increase their likelihood of being unsheltered. It's devastating for people enduring it, and they're often exposed to violence and other traumatic experiences, or they end up resorting to participation in risky behaviors as a survival technique. And unsheltered homelessness is also costly to local jurisdictions. Some statistics, so 17 people per 10,000 people experience homelessness each day. And each year, roughly 13,000 street homeless people die in the United States. And street homeless people also have an average life expectancy of just 50 years. So moving forward, we should continue to have our supportive housing programs prioritize people with long histories of unsheltered homelessness. We should continue to allocate greater resources to help those with the greatest needs. Research has shown that an estimated 20% of homeless families need housing with on-site supports more than just rental assistance in order to overcome street homelessness. If you look at someone who's been living on the street for the last 15 years, you can't just take them and throw them into an apartment and say, here's your key, here's your rental subsidy, now you figure it out. They will continue to need support in order to live an independent and fulfilling life. It's like going through rehab. And I think that we also need to continue to establish a recommended order of priority for dedicated and prioritized permanent supportive housing to ensure that those people with the longest histories of homelessness and with the most severe service needs are always, always given first priority. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Jenny. Very important information. We put so much emphasis on street homelessness, particularly around the time of the pit count. But absolutely, this is something that needs to be on our radar 12 months out of the year. So thank you for the reminder and the urgency of it. Great, thank you. All right, is Carl here? Did I see Carl? Yep, Carl is here. Carl, you're up next.
Okay, can I share my screen? Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Down.
Excellent. So I want to make a quick push that our CoC needs to do more to involve people with lived experience. HUD actually has made this a requirement in their audits of CoC programs for at least 7 years, probably more. And one of the parts of the guide for the programs is, did the recipient, to the maximum extent, involve homeless individuals and families through employment, volunteer services, or otherwise in constructing, rehabilitating, maintaining, or operating the project? So when Lisa Lockley came and audited the Mental Health Association of Westchester CoC program for Mount Vernon years ago, Lisa was very clear that they were serious about this and they expected to see concrete involvement of people with lived experience in every homeless program they funded. And MHA was great about that. I fear that not enough of us are. Another requirement is, did you have anybody on your board of directors or other equivalent policymaking entity of the recipient? I think few of you probably have people with lived experience on your board. Lisa was skeptical about there being equally meaningful equivalents. You'll need to look at that, or else you're going to wind up running the risk of getting findings on your next HUD audit. One of the big question marks is, we've had Lisa Lockley as our HUD program manager for 20 years. She's retiring in a couple of weeks, and we don't know who we're going to get or how strict they're going to be. But you need to take this seriously. One of the big opportunities is, starting like 10 or 15 years ago, New York State started creating certified peer specialists. The thing that I love about it is it takes having the lived experience of being in the mental health or substance use system, or and turns what was traditionally an employment barrier into an employment credential. Apparently, people who were certified peers can make 50, 60,000 or more starting salaries and have job openings all over the New York metro area. One of the things is there aren't enough of them. It's a relatively new credential. So you basically need to grow your own. And the training is free online. Just people need to understand what it is, have the ability to access the internet, follow through on the online self-guided training, file the application, get the provisional certification, get a field placement or a job where they get certain number of supervised hours, and then file for the full certification. Basically, a lot of hand-holding. There are 3 places that do that for adults in Westchester: Mental Health Association, HDSW, Mental Health Employment Program. There is a separate one for youth counselors that you can only use up until age 30. No one is doing that here yet, to my knowledge, but HDSW is planning one that they should be starting soon. So what our CoC has done about trying to get more involvement of lived experience, we've talked about these HUD requirements at several board meetings for the last few years. We distributed the HUD guidelines. Mental Health Association did a presentation at one of our board meetings last year on what they've done. We distributed the recent guidance about the importance of paying real salaries to people with lived experience. And we got $12,000 to help pay wage subsidies for peer counselors if you'll hire them in your CoC program. Next steps, I think I would like to have Jenny survey all the CoC members about what your current compliance is with number 58, number 59, and then to share the CoC partner rankings so you can all see where you stand. Where are you in the pack here? I think also Craig and Yoav and others do the hands-on site visits every year. I haven't been involved in that, but we should talk and make sure that compliance with number 58, number 59 are reviewed during our internal site visits, because you can get dinged by HUD. We need to know if that's something you're in danger of. And then we should consider, depending on where we stand, maybe adding points for compliance with 58 and 59 when we score renewals next year, so that you actually get rewarded and have a better chance of having your program in tier 1 if you're in the front of the pack. We should promote the local certified peer counselor training programs, and we need to figure out how to create this new wage subsidy program. And Allison's going to do the heavy lifting, and that Peters Rivolo wants to be involved in planning that also. And if any of you would like to get a wage subsidy for a homeless peer specialist or provisional peer specialist that you want to hire in your programs, talk to Allison and she can keep you in mind as she invents the procedure. The end. That was close to 3 minutes. I really tried hard.
Thanks, Carl. We appreciate your effort, and we appreciate the information. Lived experience is a huge deal for us. We've been talking about it for some time. We're delighted that we have a member on our board, but I hear what Carl is saying, expanding that now to all our organizations to further enhance, the value that, folks can bring to our organizations and to our CoC. So certainly something that we can look at, and very interesting, adding that to our site visit, checklist, start to have folks thinking about that. So yes, thank you, Carl.
One more thing. So it's important because HUD requires it. Trevor Payne from DCMH said Oasis is requiring it, beginning to make it findings on their contracts when people don't have peer involvement. And it's also just important for equity and empowerment. So it's the right thing to do. Thanks.
Absolutely. Allison, unfortunately, Carl took up 2 of your minutes, so you only have 1. So we can blame him for that. Anyway, Allison, you're up.
All part of my plan, since I have the control of the meeting. Okay, so let me show you my presentation. You might notice that my presentation this year, if you were here for it last year, looks a lot like what I presented last year. And I'm going to just continue repeating this until we do something about it. So, that's your way of getting out of hearing the same presentation repeated. So here we go. So I want to speak about LGBTQ+ identified people and homelessness in Westchester County. What I really wanted to bring to everyone's attention is the disparate issues that people who identify as LGBTQIA+ are happening for them in terms of their health and their well-being and how they're engaged with the community around them. You'll see here on this list these same health indicators that New York State identified in their study from between 2014 and 2016 are many of the very same indicators that we see among people experiencing homelessness. So this is just the general population. And as you can see, people who have so LGBO in this context means lesbian, gay, bisexual, and other. It means other sexual identities, because as we know, the terms and definitions are always expanding. So we're going to use LGBTO in terms of identity. And then in terms of gender, we're going to look at people who identify themselves as transgender. So as you can see, for the general population, 11% of people have poor mental health. And that rate is double for people who are trans and close to double for people who are LGBTO. The rates of depressive disorder are astronomical. It's double again than compared to the general population. You know, someone being a smoker, as that connects with all of the other things that people who smoke cigarettes and use tobacco, you know, are compensating for, whether that's anxiety or a serious mental health condition, or, you know, it's a medication, it's a way of self-medicating for things they are experiencing. Physical health status, again, we see people who identify as trans are experiencing poor physical health at almost twice the rate as the general population. People doing, you know, sugar sweetened beverage consumption. This is very indicative of, you know, the type of self-care and the type of diet that a person is able to maintain. And we're seeing, you know, higher rates of these, you know, foods and drinks that give us a boost of serotonin to try to get us through a tough day or a struggle. And you also see an increased rate of binge or heavy drinking. So when we look at, according to studies, 5.6% of people in New York identify as LGBTQ plus. This time we're folding people who are trans identified in with everyone who has a differing from heterosexuality sexual orientation. But that's 5.6% of people. So that looks like over 56,000 people in New York, in Westchester County. And that means if the ratio is the same amongst our homeless people, that's 76 people at, you know, any given time. And, you know, that may not seem like a big number, but here are two other groups where we push really hard for, you know, focused care. And in the case of veterans, we have more resources toward a focused end to their homelessness, even though we have less than 24 people. So we have at least 76 people. We know that LGBTQ plus people experience homelessness at a higher rate than others. So that 76 is a very low ball number. We had, you know, 50 unsheltered people. We had 79 people experiencing domestic violence. So this number 76 is very comparable to other groups that we're recognizing have specified needs that we need to address. And we're not addressing this group at all at this time. In 2021, we hosted our first ever cultural competency training around LGBTQ plus populations. And we, you know, learned that our providers really want to care for people who are LGBTQ plus and give them the resources that they need. However, they feel really limited by the current system. So it's kind of one of those great federal mandates, hey, pay attention to these folks and make some magic happen, but there's no real resources to go along with that. So I really would like for our CoC, if there are any funding opportunities for rental assistance or housing or trainings on how to do shelter better for people who are LGBTQ plus this year, that our CoC participate in them. On the local level, 3 areas for improvement were identified. One was to find the space. One of the things that providers told us is it's really hard when someone comes in presenting their gender or their sexuality in a very different way from everyone else, to feel like they're going to be safe in the shelter. And oftentimes turning them away is attributed to a lack of space. we don't have a lack of space. Our shelters are not at capacity. They have not been. And when we faced COVID-19, we had to find 6 feet between beds in order for people to stay safely. And if we can do that, we can make space for people who, have differences to be, cared for in ways that are meaningful to them and, help them have a best outcome and don't re-traumatize them. We should make someone's gender identity and their pronouns a standard intake in HMIS. It shouldn't be assumed. It shouldn't be based on whatever identification they present. It should be how they identify. And we should also have open discussions and encourage our colleagues to speak to one another about the best ways to address people when they're talking to someone who may belong to a marginalized community. A lot of the offense that occurs is because of assumptions. People make assumptions that being straight and being cisgender or, embracing the identity of your gender that was assigned to you when you were born, people make assumptions, and there's a lot of people who are passing just to try to get by on those assumptions so that they're not singled out or targeted. They're also facing medical treatment and medical treatment costs that can be astronomical compared to what the rest of us are experiencing. Gender transition can be extremely costly, whether it's a medication-based transition or a surgically based transition. We also want to make sure that landlords know about the equal access rule. We know if we let them slide, they are going to slide as long as we allow. These are the folks who are still discriminating against people on the basis of how they pay for their apartment and discriminating against people on the basis of their race. They're also discriminating against people on their perception of their LGBTQ+ status. So equal access rule says all individuals, regardless of sexual orientation or gender identity, have equal access to programs, shelters, buildings, and benefits, as well as services and accommodations. And this rule, reinstates the version of the rule wherein all grantees must ensure that shelter access be provided to each person in accordance with that person's gender and in a way that affords equal access to the person's family. So it's all about how the person identifies, not how we perceive them. And there's still a lot of transgressions being made in how people are perceived. Sometimes the different things work in different ways on the keyboard. Okay, so we really all need to make this commitment to being there for our LGBTQ+ folks. Most people in our system already are, but we really need some tools and some fine tuning in order to better address it. Here's all my sources for all my stats and how to contact me if you have questions on how best to work with this prominent population. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Allison, for that very thorough presentation. Great stats, great information, very important for us to keep at the forefront of our planning. Awesome. Thank everyone for their presentations so far. Is Angela with us yet? I don't see her. Okay. All right. So we'll open the floor. Is there anyone who would like to say something, to present?
You don't have to have a PowerPoint.
That's right.
Are moved and you wish to speak from the heart, this opportunity is available to you as well.
Absolutely.
Okay, hi, my name is Renee Mercer. I'm the supportive housing. I work for supportive housing. I'm the housing specialist. The issues that I am having is finding affordable housing for my clients. And the affordable housing that we do find, they have a guideline an income guideline, which our clients are not making at this time. And if it's a residential home or apartment home, they don't want to rent to youth of certain ages. So I'm just asking for help. Like, is there any places that I can go or I can look up to find affordable housing? Because everywhere that I have went, the waiting list is crazy long, or it's closed. And I'm having a serious issue. This is a 2-year program. I try to start with them as soon as they come into the program, but like I said, the waiting lists are so long that we're having so many issues, and I'm afraid that a lot of these youth might end up homeless again. So I'm just I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Is somebody speaking?
I can't hear them though. So what I'm really asking for, is there any places that I can go to sign these youth up so they can get affordable housing to their income?
Hi, it's Renee. How you doing? It's Polanco.
Hi, Ms.
Miss
Polanco, how
Marissa,
are
Miss
you?
Marissa.
Hi,
Good,
dear.
good. So, the only thing that comes to my head is DSS. They can go. I know when they youth, they don't want to go to DSS, but DSS can give them a shelter supplement, which is an additional income to whatever budget they have, and DSS can cover whatever the program is not covering, so they can to help them pay their rent. That's what we do with when our youth graduate from the program, which is also 2 years. We open a case on DSS, and sometimes DSS take over what we were paying before, and that's how they maintain their housing.
But we don't pay anything. That's the problem. We don't pay rent. They're
So
responsible.
do they have DSS case open when they in your shelter?
Yes, they
your
do have
facility?
DSS. They give food stamps. Yes.
Okay, so
that's
prior
it.
before
Yeah.
they completing the program, they should go to DSS. And once they have the apartment or before, they can apply for a broker's fee and tell DSS that this is their income and they need assistance paying their rent. And DSS will do it like that. It can be a room or it can be an apartment. If they qualify, of course, they will have to qualify with DSS. But if they have a case open, then that means they qualify.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Polanco.
No problem. You can call me and we can talk.
I definitely will.
Thanks, Renee, for expressing the concern. It's a big deal. It's a big issue. It's something we all face. Affordability of apartments and permanent housing for our folks. So there is a landlord relations committee meeting that meets monthly or quarterly. You might be able to get involved in that. There are leads, landlords, things that can be helpful. So we can send you that information if you're interested.
Would you please? That would be really helpful. Thank you so much, Craig.
Will do.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Is there anyone else from the floor that would like to present?
I have a statement from FSSY who couldn't make it today. So Helen Frankel writes, the Homestead and Turning Point programs sponsored by Family Service Society of Yonkers have been providing permanent supportive housing to homeless individuals with physical disabilities since 2003. Currently, the only program of its kind in Westchester County, it has provided housing to over 150 clients since its inception. FSSY chronically homeless clients reside in both shared and single apartments. FSSY has the capacity to serve 27 clients in our Homestead program and 11 clients in our Turning Point program. The Turning Point program operates at full capacity, housing disabled Westchester homeless people in single apartments. Most clients referred to FSSY have physical disabilities that require handicap accessible apartments. Of our current 23 apartments, 15 are wheelchair accessible for clients who are confined to wheelchairs or utilize scooters. FSSY continues to strive to help end homelessness in Westchester County. We believe that the physically disabled population continues to be a priority, particularly because there are extremely limited accessible housing available for them. FSSY continues to advocate with the Westchester County, New York State and federal authorities for making funds available to make affordable housing accessible to people experiencing homelessness with physical disabilities. Please assist FSSY in reducing homelessness among individuals with disabilities by prioritizing this group of homeless people in Westchester County's residents.
Thank you, Allison. And thanks to FSSY for submitting that response. All right, is there anyone else from the floor that has something they would like to share?
Since Angela Bailey isn't able to join us, she was hoping to be able to log in at 10:30. I just wanted to.
I'm here.
Oh, there you are. Welcome. Do you want?
Hi.
So the floor is yours. Go on ahead.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Angela Bailey. I'm a lived experience board member of Westchester County's CoC. My suggestion for today's meeting consists of on-the-spot childcare and arrangements and mental health. As we all know, COVID took a huge toll on everyone with no discrimination to who you were. The difference was if you were able to isolate with a backyard. It was a difference. Then in a one-room confined space, which for a lot of people led to serious mental health issues on top of the trauma of being homeless. My hope is that we are able to provide therapy sessions as a way of addressing this issue. Also, childcare for a specific business purpose only with documentation, so it's not taken advantage of. And a follow-up person to bridge the gap with agencies and clients. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you, Angela. I'm glad you made it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Excellent points. Something we certainly need to keep at the forefront. And thank you for your perspective. Is there anyone else from the floor that would like to speak? All right. If not, Carl, I'll turn it over to you for questions and answers and to close us out.
Okay. I also just wanted to respond to with some ideas about the things that were said. Can I squeeze that in? Mr. Co-Chair?
Yes.
Thank you. Doing them in order, Allison, some ways to carry it forward. I think finding a shared voice and some local data would help promote, use data to change the world. Suggestion is that you consider finding someone to co-chair with you, like an LGBTQ committee of people involved in the shelter system who want to try to move it forward. That doing that online shouldn't take so much time, but consider it. I think that would be powerful to have kind of an ongoing group advocating for it. Some of the things that would matter, the county pays attention to length of stay. If you found clients in homeless shelters who were willing to be identified and compared their length of stay to the average client, if you showed they stayed longer and cost more, the county would pay attention to that. If you, in the street outreach committee, found people who were avoiding the shelter system because of those issues and sort of collected the anecdotes without names, but just, we had 6 people. I think that's the kind of thing that would change legislators, CoC board members, and it would prompt them to make changes. And the other is that if the committee found specific stories about people avoiding or having negative encounters with the shelter system and why, it would put a face to your national stats. And it would be another, I'm trying to think of things that would get commissioners and CEOs to say, okay, we're going to change this next week. And those might be ways to do it. And that's it for my ideas prompted by your moving thing. Ms. Bailey, childcare is hard to do. One strategy that's available, I think, is family childcare. And the Child Care Council of Westchester helps families. They can get subsidies for childcare for business purposes, and they can use not just the hard to get center-based care, but they can have family childcare providers. And I believe they can even get subsidies for friends or relatives to assist with childcare, particularly like informal and flexible things. Suggestion is that Jenny get the Child Care Council of Westchester to come present to the Lived Experience Committee and sort of about how you access those resources. Because all I know is something very general. But there might be at least a partial answer to what you want if you knew how to maneuver your way through that maze, and they do. And they'll help you for free. And Jenny knows the way to them, so she can put it all together.
Okay, sounds good.
Only a partial response, but at least it's some way to move that agenda forward right away.
Yeah.
Yes, and these are things that, you know, our whole CoC will be thinking about and focused on for the coming year. So if these populations and needs are, you know, making a brainstorm for anyone else, you know, we would love to have, you know, an email or phone call or, you know, just reach out to us and let us know about that.
Yeah, Allison or Jenny can take an idea and connect it with the people who could move the idea forward, or other ones, or, you know, they can help put you together with the people to try to make something happen.
And the other piece is funding opportunities. You know, if any of these populations, if HUD or New York State or Westchester County comes through with an RFP and it has to do with anything we've mentioned today, from affordable housing to youth homelessness to, you know, child care to serious mental health, people experiencing serious mental health, especially as a result of the isolation that we've all experienced with COVID, and, you know, LGBTQ plus people, and people experiencing street homelessness, and people with lived experience getting opportunities. I think that we should jump on it and, you know, really encourage the board to do so.
And New York State Empire State Supported Housing Initiative can provide housing subsidies with services for specific kinds of homeless populations. So if you take the ideas and put them with data in a plan, you can wind up creating the housing that nobody's thought of yet. And so there's an annual chance for that. You just need to define a population, define a program, define the services that you need, and find somebody willing to carry that forward. But there's a lot of creative minds here, and there's always money for new pots of homeless housing. You just need to shape it. We can try to help you do that. Anything else from anyone? This is a wonderful group. You really got the chance to change the world. We sort of do that on a regular basis in small, incremental, but unstoppable ways. And thank you all for making that possible. Okay, any final words from anyone? Thank you. You're a wonderful group. Have a wonderful
Thanks, everybody.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
for anyone who has folks that missed out on today, who wants to see what we talked about, the recording will be available on YouTube starting this afternoon. So we'll see you soon.